call this congregational meeting to order. Thank you for your presence here today to do this important work, to have these meaningful conversations. One thing I would ask is that for people who were unable to be here today to be a part of this conversation, if they have any questions or you think it would be meaningful for them to hear something that you learned here today. Because this is going to be more than a 2026 spending plan conversation. This is going to be kind of a larger picture of what we as a consistory have been talking about doing for some things that have impact upon our finances here at TCC, which we think from a consistent perspective will be really good for the life of the congregation, but we certainly would welcome your impact and your input and your help in spreading things that happen here today, so more people become aware of it. So grateful for your presence. Let me open us with a word of prayer. God, thank you for the gift of this day that we can gather together to worship you, to have our appetites whet for your return in this Advent season. I thank you too for this ministry year gone past, for all the ways that you have been faithful to Thornapple Community Church, through the opportunities we've had to serve you in the community, to reach out and love Christ to our neighborhood, to be a refuge, and to continue to do the work of transformation in the name of Jesus. Here as a congregation, thank you for all the ways we can celebrate Tim over the past year and his retirement, and continued blessing upon them in that season as we continue to lean into our new reality and into a new ministry year. We ask your Spirit's continued blessing. Bless our conversations now. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving. Amen. All right, we'll turn it over to Vice President Dave Klaus, who's going to walk us through some important conversations. If you didn't get a handout, I can take a couple of those, Dave. If you didn't get one of these, there might be some on the back table. If you don't have one, I can walk them to you where I am for you.
You will want one of those. If you're like me, where are we? Some numbers are going to go up here on the screen, and if you're like me, you can't see them. So you really need one of these in front of you. Okay? Here we go. There we go. Technology is wonderful. When it works, right. These are the two things we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about the budget, which you have in front of you. At the end of that discussion, we'll want a motion, hopefully, from you to approve it. Okay? And then the second thing, do I get to stomp on this and make a point? Or the second thing we're going to do is talk big picture. So we need to cover both of them. So I'm going to start with the budget. I'm going to go big picture, just point out some things, not go into a lot of detail, but go big picture. So let's do that. This should match what you have in front of you. And I would guess that from about this row back, you can't see much of that. Yeah. Okay. 2025 is this current calendar year that we're in. This is our budget currently. The next one column to it is what we propose for next year. Take a look at the comparisons of the 2 years. Look at our current year. Go way down to the bottom, a deficit of $50,000. The year before, if you remember Dave Christensen being up here and asking us to give 10% more, remember that occurrence? That was a year before. So we've come through some kind of tough budgets. And the one that you're seeing for 2026 is a break-even budget. This thing feels like it wants to fly off my ear. It's a break-even budget. That is a big deal. A big directional change. That was our intent going into it, is to try to make a break-even budget, and we did that. So let's go through some of the oh, goodness. That's about as good as I get with technology. I can't do that. I talk with my hands. I get just like somebody else in my family. How's that? Okay.
That's your class. Here we go. Right there.
Right there. Okay. Sorry for the delay. Let's start at the top. Revenue or donations. If you just quick look at it, you think, oh, well, they just dropped in a number and away they went because the 460,000 from last year is the same for this year. Not true. There were 3 people in our congregation that spent a lot of time looking at the giving and drawing conclusions about the trends and the like, and then dropping these numbers in. And so you have the pledges are in there, but there's also some people who don't give by pledges that we are aware of, and so we factored that in. Also down there, you see the third line down in 2026, there's grant revenue. Recall that we got a grant for Kent's sabbatical, and that would cover the expenses that we had, part of the expenses, while Kent is gone. So that number is counted now. We've been holding that cash, and we're now bringing into the budget and counted as revenue, which brings us to a higher number, 500,000. That's you start there. Now, let's drop down, and I'm going to touch on each one of these things in kind of rapid order. And then at the end, we can do questions, okay? So, we'll spend the most time with administrative salaries and benefits because this is where a lot of changes occurred. Tim left. That saved us $97,000 a year. So that money went away. But remember back to the transition plan, we had a plan that said we would put teams together, and then we would increase people who are on staff in their responsibilities and their hours. Remember that kind of discussion from back then? So the people who were affected positively was Renee. She got some, Renee in the office, she got some additional responsibilities. Her hours are increased, so those hours are built in here. Same thing with Rachel for additional responsibilities. Same way with Aiden. There were some things we're asking of him to do this year. So those were built in. All right? Then, if those are all part of that, it falls right in line with the transition plan. Okay? Then, remember that transition plan had a coordinator of food ministry position in there? You remember that? That position was taken out. And Kent is eager to talk about that.
So eager. Yeah, we talked about this at the Congregational Forum back in October, and even longer ago in the summer, and there was this kind of swelling of interest among, we call them officially now the food guys. And so if you hear us refer to the food guys, we are referring to the likes of Mark Howard, Brian Van Geest, and Tim Klaus. And then they're cronies, okay? So people that kind of get pulled in for different events, like whether it be for they've had their first 2. Consecration Sunday was number 1, where they did the consecration meal for us. And at that meal, the consistory kind of comes alongside to support that effort. And then the turkeys that we prepare for Servants Community Church, which you've seen a thank you in the bulletin today, were 12 turkeys get prepared here and then brought down to servants, and they were so grateful for that, and it went really, really well. So I'm really grateful. Mark and Brian and Tim know, and Dave knows, that when it was first kind of introduced, that there were some people in the congregation who wanted to kind of lean into it on a volunteer basis. I probably wasn't the most excited human being in the world. Just because we had kind of a bit of a vision coming out of it, and yet, like, I learned over time through conversation with them that they really meant what they said, and they were interested in doing it, and they wanted to do it because they love this congregation so much. So the one thing I want to say is a thank you to the food guys, but I also want to commend all of us to be their cronies, right? To be those that step in and help when we can and when we're able to support that work. The next thing they're going to be doing next week, Sunday, is the All Abilities Christmas Party, which is following worship. That's a big deal. We have 4 group homes coming to that, and that'll be a wonderful event. And so there's lots of work that they're going to be doing, and that was a huge cost saving to us. But a few things in the budget, that was going to be about a $28,000-ish position annually for that Ministry of Food Coordinator. We took a little bit of that money. It hasn't been dedicated toward any staff, but a couple of line items in the budget. Like we built up the kitchen line item budget by a few $100s. We built up other events in the budget, which are, like if we have an extra gathering, we put some money in a congregational or a consecration feast line item in the budget, just so all of those things are accounted for. And now there's some money in there. It probably adds up to about $2,000 or $3,000 or so of the total budget for some of those things that we added in. So really grateful for that and given to our congregation. So 2 of you at least are here. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Brian, for that. And really grateful for your willingness to lean into that. That is a 3-year commitment that you said this isn't like into eternity necessarily. So we might be having future conversations, but at least for right now, we have a new reality that into that I was wondering about, but now I'm hugely grateful for.
I don't need that. Yeah. Thank you, Ken. Okay, so some things were increased. You heard Tim's money coming out. You heard the food person's money coming out. Last thing I'll touch on is, in complete transparency, we also gave Kent a bigger than normal increase in salary this year. Mostly due to the fact that when we were looking at it as a consistory, we went back in the last 3 years, and Kent had a 0% increase one year, a 1.8% increase the second year, and a 3%. And that just didn't seem right to us. So we put in a 3% kind of baseline, and instead of the 3 or 4% this year, he is getting a 7% increase. Okay? If you have concerns with that, see me after the meeting. So, ins and outs, that's the administrative salaries and benefits. Congregational ministry, that went up, and it is because of, that's where we're having all the sabbatical expenses come. Remember up top, we had the revenue, now we're spending it down below. The other thing that was in there is about $1,000 more for paper, because people like me like to use paper in this church. But that's what caused that increase. Missional outreach, that's the giving we do to organizations outside of us, out into the community, out into the world. That went up a little bit, just a little bit there. It's basically because of our support of Aiden. When a person of the church goes into seminary training, our church will pay $1,500 a semester to support them. That's not just Aiden, that's occurred in the past too, okay? So that was an additional expense there. But personally, that number looks small to me. If I look at the budget of $50,000, if you just used 43,000, that's not even close to a 10% factor. However, when we were looking at that, what doesn't show up in here is the Christian Action Fund. So, you take the numbers that are up there for giving that's in the budget, you add the Christian Assistance Fund, and some other things in our budget that relate to work outside of our family, and that number comes to about 14 to 15% of our total budget. So one of the things we like to do is apply that 10% principle to this line item, and we're at about 15%. So that makes me feel better, personally. No.
Yeah, just the Christian Assistance Fund, which the deacons know most about this, because they're the ones kind of receiving those requests and then approving them and such. But you don't get to see that every day, right? You're not receiving those emails from the office. And we have been so grateful as a board of deacons and as a consistory that when that fund has gotten a little lower in the year, we'll name it on a Sunday, and it feels like 3 or 4 Sundays later, we were really kind of humming again, being able to do and take action on a lot of these needs. I mean, Dave names that we were at, if you look at our giving up there, around $43,000 from our budget, when you add that extra 20 grand in there that we go to annually for Christian Assistance Fund. And that's what we've learned, what I've learned, especially over the past year, getting more involved in that, is that so many churches now do it like this, where they just kind of give to specific organizations, which is great, but those immediate needs are getting harder and harder and harder for local agencies to be able to meet, because fewer and fewer and fewer churches are responding to immediate needs. They're more responding to more global needs. And so we're really glad that we continue to be nimble with our Christian Assistance Fund. And agencies like HealthNet and Family Promise and others are really appreciative of congregations like TCC and a few others that are doing that. So thank you for your responsiveness. It's helped us not only get over that 10% up to about 14 or 15, but it's blessing lots of real people in our community. That's awesome.
Thank you, Ken. Next line item, discipleship. Bit of an increase there. This is basically where the youth expenses fall. So there was additional money for support of the mission trip that's coming up, and then some other money for youth activities. And then actually we increased Aiden's salary a little bit and applied it down in this line item for, he is going to be the coordinating person for when Kent leaves and ministers come in. Aiden will coordinate with them. He will make sure the front of the service gets dealt with and then the back of the service gets dealt with. So we increase his pay in that category. Lastly, facilities management. Looks like a big jump there, doesn't it? It's about $11,000, $12,000. Well, the usual things that you would think about, just like at your house, expenses for gas went up, expenses for electricity went up, insurance went up by $3,000. Just like at my house, like we were just finishing our budget and bam, 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 those things hit. Then we also, let me look at my notes to make sure, we added another $1,000 for maintenance of the building because our building is getting a little bit older. And then we increased the line item, what's called special projects. We increased that by $5,000. We'll talk about special projects here in a minute, but we put an additional $5,000 into our budget reflecting things that are going to happen that we just don't know about right now. All right? All things therefore put together, that's our budget. Questions? If not, you're on to get a motion.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a motion to approve the 2026 spending plan as presented? It's been moved. I hear supports and seconds. Thank you for that. Is there further discussion before we take action on it? I'll just have one comment. Thank you for your generous giving over 2025. Grateful for that. It's been a good year. And we know that that's because of God's goodness in our lives and your way of living out of that gratitude. So thank you on behalf of the history for that generosity. All in favor of the 2026 spending plan, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Dave?
Now we're going to continue on. The budget is done, but we're still going to talk about projects and money and all of that good stuff. So we're going to talk about what you see here, operating reserves. We're going to talk about some of that. We're going to talk about the building expenses. We are proposing 3 ways of dealing with that. Those yearly unexpected projects, the building reserve fund, and then major projects. Okay, operating reserves. Think about this as your rainy day fund. I'm assuming that you have one, or if you don't, you really need to have one. But it's that money you set aside saying, I know something's going to happen. I don't know what it is. Life isn't going to be all rosy all the time. We need some monies to have set aside. Experts say anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to 9 months to a year, depending on who you read and who you want to use. Consistory talked about it. We decided to have a 3 months of our budget set aside in a reserve fund, specifically set aside for protection for us when the budget or something goes the wrong way. That we can draw on that money and we can continue operations, so to speak, continue what we're doing and not go to stand up here and say, boy, do we need money right now for that. It will be used in difficult times. If we use it, the idea is to replenish it, and the amount will be adjusted each year. And in 2026, that number is $125,000. That's the stability under our feet to make sure that we can continue going forward. Next, let's talk about the building. Yeah, I'm on the right one. So this is the first of 3 things that we're proposing. We know that things are going to happen that we don't know about. Okay? It just happens. Just like in your house, the dishwasher crashes. You know, the furnace goes bad, or the boiler in our case. And I gave you the examples for this year. We didn't know we were going to have to pay for the boiler. We didn't know that we were going to have to hook up the water system in, which is good, but we had to spend some money to put the plumbing in to make all that happen. And there was a kitchen upgrade that's underway. And those things add up to almost $40,000 this year. Most of them, we knew a little bit about the kitchen, but the others were just surprises. So how do we deal with that? Here's the first way we would deal with it. Each year, we were putting $15,000 in our operating budget. Remember a minute ago when I was going through the facilities stuff, and I mentioned $5,000 additional gift, or not gift, but expense put in there? That's this. Each year we'll put $15,000 in our operating budget to cover some of these expenses. You're going to say to me, well, what is going to happen next year? I don't know. Something may happen. If it doesn't, we hang on to that $15,000. If it doesn't, we can use that $15,000, great. But what happens if it's $40,000? $15,000 doesn't cover that, does it? Which leads me into the next area. We would like to put in place a building reserve fund. Remember the principles I talked about a second ago in the operating reserve funds? Same kind of approach. It's not the 3 months kind of thing, but it is an amount of money initially funded at $50,000 to pay for things related to our building. It's a reserve. We'll pull off of it when we need to. When we use it, we're going to replenish it. And it's there to support the things that we have to do with this aging building. Hang on, Jerry. I want to get through, and then we'll have questions. So I won't forget you. Next one, major projects. Well, these probably will come at no surprise to you. We have an aging building. We have an area of our building that needs a roof. Not this one, but out there. It's a flat roof, and it has been in place for 25 years, give or take a year. That's a long life for a flat roof. It's approaching the very end of where it should be. It needs to be replaced. If we do it this year, it costs $100,000. Because this has got things that prices increase a lot at, we're plugging in a 7% per year increase. So if you go and let that kind of roll out, by the year 2030, it'll be $127,000. But we have no choice for that. That roof is going to leak. We're not going to enjoy, Kent and the staff particularly won't enjoy water coming down on them. We need to deal with that. Okay, Kent. This is at the end of that, so how do I hit that? Nope, I screwed it up. There you go, thank you. Oh, scroll it down, okay. I'm learning. Parking lot is another one. It sits out there and it deteriorates. Ours will continue to deteriorate. We know that we've got to have some work to do on that in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years to keep it up to par, and that'll cost $32,000. All right, this is a very crude kind of cash flow. I could have thrown up 3 or 4 pages of detailed cash flows, and about 25% of us will move through it easily, but this is very simple. We start with the cash that we have at the end of the year. I don't have a number up there because we don't know it yet, but you can get close to it by just kind of adding up the numbers underneath it, and that's generally where our cash is right now, plus another, I think, 20 or 25,000. Now, go through the things that we just went through. the operating reserves. We're going to take 125,000 out and apply it for operating reserves. That leaves us with $107,000 to be used towards the roof and parking lot. We also talked about putting in a building reserve fund. So we take $50,000 of that number and put it into the building reserve fund. That leaves us $57,000 for major projects. So there you are. Oops. Something happened to the... Anyway, I think you can figure this out. We've got the roof for $127,000, the parking lot for $32,000. Those are projects that we have to do. We got to get them done. We need to do them in the next 2 to 3 years. 4, maybe. We have $57,000 available. We're short $103,000. Now, before I bring up the next slide, we looked at this and we said, okay, what do? We know that we got to get these projects done. What do we do? What are some of our options? Well, one of them could be to go into the budget and chop out part of the budget, $25,000, $30,000 a year as an example, and we would apply that towards a shortfall. That would hurt. That we would feel that kind of adjustment. But I've done that a number of times in my life, and it is an option that we looked at. We also looked at the potential of saying, okay, let's divide that number by 3 or 4 years, and we'll just put it in as an addition to the operating budget. That's an option. Or a combination of those things. We'll put some of it into the budget and we'll cut off some in the budget. Those are some of the options that we looked at. And we didn't choose to go that way. We would like to undertake a fund drive for $100,000. If we had that, we'd be able to do the roof and the parking lot. The goal is that all the gifts, the donations and pledges would be paid by at least, boy, I really got specific there, 122 by January. I don't know where that one came from. When you write on a piece of paper, sometimes your mind does funny things. By January of 29, it gives people 3 years, or even 4. If you have money laying around, you can make a donation this year, 26, 27, 28. But we need the money in by that time. If we get the money sooner, we can pull the trigger sooner and deal with those kinds of things. We would appoint, or we will be appointing, a small team of people to manage this process. And the process begins, that word should be begins, in the next few months. So, what does that mean? We really need your help. Otherwise, we have to go back to some of the other options. The one that I forgot to mention is we could take out a mortgage and do it that way. It's a lousy option, but that's one of the options that we have. We think the best one is we need your help. The group of 3 or 4 people will be contacting you and asking for your help. So, we need your help. Okay, I'm done. Jerry.
Well,
Hang on.
part of my question was, the 125,000, is that a residual fund that takes care of when our income is, during the year, is out of step with our expenditures? So it's just kind of like a fund that goes up and down through the year because people are given money out of their 401k, and then all comes at the end of the year type of, so we get behind in the middle. I mean, what is the 125,000?
Well, the answer to your question is yes. Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
that's
so,
what you
so the
identified.
125 stays there. It really isn't available for these projects.
Correct.
Okay. The other thing I just mentioned
Two
is
questions.
that,
Okay.
I think we need to be more practical in saying that part of the responsibility of the congregation is to establish a budget to take care of the known things, which include roof and parking lot. You know, if you set aside $5,000 a year or something, 10 years from now, you got $50,000 and the money's there for the roof or the parking lot.
Yeah.
Just as a comment, I'm not,
No.
you don't have to speak to that because that's not the route you took, but I think that would be an important thing to, consider in budgeting.
So I will speak to it for a second. The things that I went through are all pieces of building the base for the future. Not only dealing with the roof and the parking lot now, but plugging in the principles of making sure that we can continue life here at TCC. By the way, I didn't hear it this morning, but welcome to TCC. I'm glad you're here. Or if it was said, I didn't catch it, which is a possibility too. Other questions? Are you following? Ruth, please.
Yeah, I just want to build on what Dave was saying. This is a bit of a catch-up because we haven't been doing that, Jerry. I just want to reinforce what you were saying, which is why you said the 15,000 annually to put in. So it is meant to be futuristic, but capital campaign to deal with the current state because we haven't been doing that.
Right, but the budget, we're consuming, let's say, $5,000 of parking lot deterioration every year. And then all of a sudden, some time goes by, we got $50,000 to spend. The $5,000 that we're consuming every year ought to be accumulated. I mean, that ought to be part of the plan.
That is, yeah, Jerry, it is. But you have to take into account what Ruth just said. We've got a couple big things that we got to take care of. At the same time, we're, just like Ruth said, we're putting in the pieces that give us a solid foundation for the future.
Which is why the building reserve fund is being established.
I don't know if you heard that. Which is why the building reserve fund is being established. Yes. Thank you, Ruth. How come you sit down here and Mark's way back there? Yeah, okay. Jerry.
So the finance team has been working with consistory on all of this, and my point would be is, so those dollars that we are setting aside, those numbers, we actually have had that in cash. So we had to determine what are we going to do with the cash that we have on hand, and we decided to set aside the 125 and another 50. So that's 175 of cash that we said we have a purpose for that. And Jerry's right, but we have to get into a routine as far as looking at the building and figuring that out. And how we do that, the short answer is we're going to do the $100,000 drive. The long term is we got to sit down and take a look at the whole project and develop a plan from that.
Agreed. Thank you, Jerry. He makes it sound good there. He just encapsulated what I was going to say, or have said. Other questions?
Not really a finance question, but more transition team stuff. Could
Oh,
you,
that's out there. Pardon me, I was trying to
Yeah.
connect the face with it.
I'm filling as tech guy right now. Could you explain, like, to who and how Tim's responsibilities got divvied up amongst, like, remaining staff in the various teams?
Sure. That one you want to take? I mean, I can do it, but you're headed down here, so go ahead.
So we've talked about one with the food guys, right? Tim's gift of hospitality was oftentimes exercised through those ministries. Pastoral care, that's happening through the congregational care team, where people who are going to be serving on 3 sub-teams, and they're going to be supporting my work of pastoral care. Rich Husingfeld, I don't think Rich stuck around, but Rich and I have been going out to visit some of the people, because Rich doesn't know all of them as well yet, like maybe Dale and Paul do. But Rich has been going on with me some pastoral calls, getting to know some folks, which has been good. And come January, those teams are going to start functioning to do the pastoral care work. All ability stuff is kind of divvied up. You mentioned that last week during your report. Rachel's taken on kind of the organizational part of that. I've taken on the pastoral part of that. So I would say staffing-wise, we're sharing that. And a variety of, Tim's other responsibilities have found, like CAF, that's happening through myself and through Renee, who are taking on some additional responsibilities of managing, like making sure like that's coordinated. So those are some of the ways that it's happening through teams and through staff. Is that helpful, Stephen? Awesome. Other questions?
Ask whatever you want. This is, by the way, we'll be doing this every 3 months, Ken?
Just a
Chris.
comment. You know, this fund drive is really consistent with what we have done for many years in the past as far as identifying needs that are like the roof and those kind of things, and separately fundraising for them. So this really isn't anything different than we've done, although it looks like we're going to do a better job of setting aside the funds for, putting some money into the building fund, the $15,000 for the future, and identifying the amount of money that we need to keep operationally in the account, a minimum amount. So I think it's great.
Thank you. We're putting in a structure on top of the fund drive. Yes, sir. What's your name? Are you new here?
Yes. My first name is Jose,
Okay.
and the last name is Can You See?
Yeah.
Question to ask about the driveway. If I remember correct, about 6 years ago, we had a budget, about $800,000 it cost us to do the driveway. Am I correct in saying that?
800,000?
No. How much?
No, I hope not.
We didn't put gold in that bad boy.
No. How much was that?
It was 100, but it was a whole
Oh,
new parking lot.
okay. What are they going to do for $32,000?
You just heard the answer behind you.
When you
Read-
say repair, we already see out there where they fill the cracks and everything. I just have a hard time. The parking lot basically is used on Sundays, a lot of cars. During the week, there's hardly any cars being used at this parking lot. I have to go by this is my personal feeling. Was the project not done the way we thought it was going to be by putting so many inches on that driveway, or you wouldn't have to come back in 6 years and fix it?
My answer to that, not being an expert in asphalt, would be we live in Michigan, and the conditions in which asphalt exists, it's not like concrete, right, where concrete's going to hold up a lot better than asphalt. But if we put concrete on there, it's going to be way more than $500,000 probably. So asphalt just doesn't, this isn't abnormal for a parking lot that's that old. And part of the reason that was a big expense is we expanded our parking lot then too. So I know it stinks spending money on a parking lot. I agree.
Bless your heart. Other questions? How does this feel to you? Is this something you understand and support?
Do you feel good about the work the consistory is doing? Like thinking about this stuff? So I think that's what we need to, that's helpful for us to hear that you feel good about the work, because if we heard today, we're not looking for approval on this. These are actions that consistory is making, but we wanted you to be aware, because if we got a lot of feedback, like you guys are way out in left field, then we would need to circle back around and have a different conversation. So if this feels good to you, continue to give us some of that feedback. If you're not comfortable doing it in a large group like this, we'd welcome that. I really want to thank the finance team for the work over the past several months of shaping the budget, helping us think through these numbers. They've really empowered the consistory in a wonderful way. So Jerry, thank you on behalf of your team and other team members who are here. You've gathered in some new ones, I know, recently as well. So thank you for that. And thank you. Got two other things. All right, Paul. If you're on finance team, I know Ruth is on it. I know Deidre is on it. I know that Dave is on it. There's Jerry. Ann kind of has to, Ann is forcibly on it. Her elbow is twisted to be on it. Craig Holman is on it. Yep. Yeah, indeed.
Just had a quick one. Are you going to issue envelopes that say building fund on them, or something like that?
I don't know, Bob. Maybe.
That would kind of remind me to, put a little extra in it. Also, I got one quick one here. I recently bought really inexpensive insurance from Consumers Energy, as far as in case you have a water pipe break in the house, or if the water line breaks between the street and your house. I don't know if they have that for organizations or buildings or not. It's something. It's real cheap for housing. I know that.
Okay. I don't know. That's something we can look at. Jerry?
We can investigate that as far as what's available for it. We can do that. Take a look at it. I'm looking at Ann because I really want Ann to talk.
Yeah.
Ann doesn't want to, but just as far as the change in our banking. So one of the things about the cash that got us uneasy, we had our money at Macatawa not earning any interest. Those reserve funds that you're looking at, we're going to invest them now. And with that, Ann, are we changing banks?
Macatawa has been a good bank for us in the past, but their options have become more limited, and there's been growing desire to move away from them. So we've done a lot of research. We looked at all banks, and we decided to move to Chase Bank. They just have many options and consistency as well. We're not just going to get a really good new rate and then fall off the cliff. We think it'll be a good long-term bank for us. Lord knows I don't want to have to do all this rigmarole, so it wasn't a decision I joyfully made, but I think it's the right call.
Anything else, Mr. Vice President?
I'm done.
Dave, thank you. Sherry, you have something to say?
Well, all I was going to say is what I'm hearing, and I think Chris alluded to that, is that we really aren't doing anything different. We're still doing fund drives like we used to. The difference I'm hearing is that we are putting money aside so that we will have the funds that we will need in the future to help pay for these things when they come up unexpectedly. So I think that's an incredibly good plan. So I just applaud the group that's worked on that.
Could I just say one thing? Knowing how Dave's mind works, and he was involved with this, that money that we're putting aside, that doesn't mean go think of things to spend it on. I'm not allowed to do
I love that, Gary. Dave, way to go, buddy.
Yeah.
Friends, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn? Jerry beat me to it. It's been seconded. Support. All in favor, say yes. Yes. Opposed, say no. We are adjourned, but I'm going to pray now. Lord, thank you for this time together. You are good. And your goodness, we can say that with words, but we really can't fully communicate it or even understand it with those words. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for your generosity in Jesus. And thank you for our congregation to be a part of, to serve in, to work among and with. We ask your blessing upon our future year as a team, as a congregation, that we will be a refuge in our community, and that we will be faithful to the call that you place upon us. Bless and keep us in this day. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks for your time.